Well, good morning. Today we look at Psalm 144. I think it's an encouraging psalm, a psalm that really gives us a broad view of the story of the world. I don't think David intended it to be that way. Actually, it's a compilation psalm. Like there's parts of other psalms brought together to make one. So we're not even sure David originally wrote it. Maybe it was organized later on and given David's name. Either way, it works and is helpful to us, and it gives us this broad view of the story of earth and God's work on it, his redemptive work on the world. Like if you were to take the major movements of this psalm and overlay it over the history of the world, the story of humanity, they would line up nicely. And so it's just really encouraging. It's a psalm that gives us hope as we think about the brokenness of the world, and calls us to depend on God, to go to God, to be our hope in a world that's fractured and broken, that we need help with. And so I want to start at the end of the Psalm 144, verses 12 through 15. And it's one of those passages where you read it and you say, that's incredible. That's amazing. How can that be true? This description of what David writes. And here's what he says. Then our sons in their youth will be like well-nurtured plants, and our daughters will be like pillars carved to adorn the palace. Okay, that sounds nice, right? It's poetic. Keep reading. Our barns will be filled with every kind of provision. Our sheep will increase by thousands, by tens of thousands in our fields. Our oxen will draw heavy loads, strong oxen, right? There will be no breaching of walls, no going into captivity, no cry of distress in our streets. It seems like now he's stretching it, right? Blessed is the people of whom this is true. Blessed is the people whose God is the Lord. And so he's painting this picture of Shalom, this perfect peace, this kind of peace that we all want and hunger for, that we can't find in deep, real ways. Even as David talks about these kinds of ideas, we know that rarely did they experience it. Like the people of Israel never really got to a place where they experienced this kind of blessing. And so we say that's impossible. That's too good to be true. And so it points for us to a future through Christ where he is at work in the world to make everything perfectly peaceful, to bring us to a place of shalom, of goodness, a place that we all long for. And so let me back up and look at the early part of the Psalm 1, verse 1. It says, "Praise be to the Lord, my rock, who trains my hands for war, my fingers for battle. He is my loving God and my fortress, my stronghold and my deliverer, my shield in whom I take refuge, who subdues peoples under me." So you get a sense that David has confidence and trust in God. And he uses that word subdues. Really, he's thinking about enemies. And so you take care of enemies to be in a place of peace, right? And so it's this idea that God's at work on my behalf, and I trust him to bring me to this place of peace that we already read about earlier. And so, and then verse 3 really catches us off guard. "Lord, what are human beings that you care for them? Mere mortals that you think of them. They are like a breath. Their days are like a fleeting shadow." And so we ask that same question, God, why do you care about humans? Like, who are we that you think about us and move our direction? And really, that's the story of all creation, right? God created the earth. He created humans on it. Of course, it went bad through sin and brokenness, and everything fell apart. But here's the truth. God cares for his humanity. He moves our direction. And I know you say, I don't always feel that, and we feel the world broken in deep ways with death and grief and sickness and hardship and pain and suffering. And so we don't always feel it, but the psalm helps move us towards trust in God. Verse 5, and this is the intervention we need, right? Part your heavens, O Lord. Come down, touch the mountains so they smoke. Send forth lightning and scatter the enemy. Shoot your arrows and rout them. Reach down your hand from high. Deliver me and rescue me from the mighty waters, from the hands of foreigners whose mouths are full of lies. And you get a sense that he wants God to step in, to step on and step on the earth and come down. And really, we know that's true from the story of Christ. He entered the world. He came. He humbled himself. He broke through. He lived life amongst his humans. He died and he rose again. And we know that he's coming again, and he will step down, and the mountains will smoke, and God will destroy wickedness, the enemy. And he will move us towards that peace. And so David is confident that he can put his hope in a God who cares for him, who will work on his behalf and bring them to a place of peace. Man, that psalm is so good. It just gives us a vision of a setting when there will be peace and joy, and there will be shelter and safety. There will be no more hardships, no more pain, no more tears, no more crying. He's going to make all things new. I think that Psalm 144 points us that way. And so in your troubles today, in your looking to the future, when you say, how long is this going to go on, Lord? Know that you can trust him and put your hope in him, because he cares for you. He's at work in the world, and he's coming again, and Christ will make things new. Trust in him. You can count on him. We'll talk again. God bless you today. We'll see you.